and are still the board to this day. So that's a bit about how we came to be. It was about 1 year from the conception of the idea to when we applied for funding and submitted our first initial funding bid. So that leads me on to our funding. I wanted to talk a bit about our funding as I am a fundraiser, but also because it's a very important part of the setup of any not-for-profit organisation. We were funded initially and are still funded by the National Lottery Community Fund, People and Places, which is a Wales-specific fund. And Tristan initially went to the European Office of Funding, but was told that because the project was a little bit more local and a bit more contained, that it'd be better to go to a national organisation, national funding organisation. So that's what he did. He went to the National Lottery and spoke to the funding officers there in detail about the bid, got a lot of advice and refined the idea before submitting. And I wanted to mention as well that his first application was actually unsuccessful. He was told to go away, do more consultation and research, and get back to them. I wanted to mention this because I think sometimes organisations tend to be a bit discouraged when they're initially rejected from funding. Sometimes they think that it means that that funder doesn't like their idea, or maybe that it's not going to work in the future, but I actually think that the opposite is true. Sometimes when you submit your first funding bid, and especially if you've been given feedback and you've gone and acted on that feedback, sometimes that just means that you are getting your foot in the door, making your name known, and it actually makes you more likely to receive funding a second time round. And that's what happened to us. We received major project funding for 3 years for our community projects. And later down the line, we went back to them after our 3 years were over, and we received another 3 years. So this is our 6th year of being funded by the National Lottery, and it's fantastic because it's given us a lot of stability through these sort of first years of growth and getting our feet on the ground, which has been really cool. I've just put up the Scottish equivalent of the People and Places large grants is the Improving Lives Fund. If anyone wants to have a look at that, it's online, but I just thought I'd mention that as well. So after we had our funding, we moved on to our first project. Our first project was in Gleneath in 2018, March 2018, and we got on 2 tutors on board, and that was Matt and Di, who you can see down in the corner here being interviewed by ITV Wales and hating every second of it. He was not happy in front of that camera.
My name's Abby Lewis. I'm the Engagement and Wellbeing Officer for the Community Impact Initiative. We're a non-profit that works with local community members to learn skills and regenerate houses. There's so many deprived areas in South Wales. People are looking for projects to help them become employment ready, so we kind of mix the two things to solve 2 problems in one go. I always say to people, we're not a construction project, it's just the vehicle that we use to help people.
I've learned how to do a bit of plumbing and carpentry, a little bit more painting, so I just sort of gained like the confidence to just try more stuff.
Pretty good actually. It's like you have a laugh with all the boys, have a joke, know each other like.
It's a welcoming and friendly place to be. They sort of help in any way they can.
I think empathy is a massive part of what we do, especially in my role. We are completely non-judgmental. So we work with local organisations from the probation service, job centre, mental health charities, homeless charities, and everybody gets the chance to come here if that's what they want to do. It doesn't make any difference to me whether you've been committed for a crime and you're working off your hours. I'm still going to help you as I would for somebody that's just here to work on their confidence. So everybody that comes to us has a different set of needs, they've got a different background, and we try and adapt what we do to help them for what they want to get out of the project.
I say go for it, because they help you a lot and they will get your skills up and get your confidence build up.
You get such a different group of people, so you get male and female, 16-year-old to sort of 56-year-old, and it's people they wouldn't necessarily get to meet in their everyday lives, and they always get along really well. They get a chance to sort of learn from other people as well, which is quite nice. So it's just a really nice, close-knit project.
few tradespeople who do contract work for local organisations and local individuals, a lot of not-for-profit organisations, which has worked out really well. And it's our aim that by the end of the year, the commercial income from this arm of our organisation will cover the core costs of our project. We also recently received another national lottery grant, a cost of living grant, because over the last year or so, I would say, we've noticed participants really starting to struggle with the minor costs but significant costs of being on the project. Obviously, our projects are free to attend in theory, but what we really wanted to do with this grant was make them completely free, from the travel that people needed to and from, the food, so we provide lunches now, and clothing as well. We didn't want people having to dirty their own clothing, which they might need to use for other areas of their lives and such. So we're really excited to be able to do that, and we're currently working on that. Finally, I'm just going to talk a bit about, never mind, about the 2 new projects that we're currently working towards. Building a Legacy. There was some text there. I don't know where it's gone. It's Building a Legacy is our new project we've just received funding for, and it will run alongside our core project delivery. It'll be use the same model, and people will still be able to gain the same things. They will work towards qualifications. They will improve their well-being, etc., etc. But it will also be related to sustainable retrofitting. So people will be able to engage with climate change through the project and conversations on climate change. And it will also be tackling fuel poverty in the area, which is a huge problem for local people as well. Secondly, Women Construct Wales is a project we are trying to relaunch because we tried to launch it in December 2019. You can imagine how that went. So we're relaunching this project. It's a women's only project, again following the same model, but the really exciting thing about it is once completed, the properties will be used to house vulnerable women in our local area by Half-An Cymru. So really excited about that as well. I believe I have a few minutes for questions. If I don't get around to you though, feel free to email me. And yeah, that's me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catrin. I'm tempted to ask what you do in the afternoons, because you cram in what a huge amount there, you know, and a whole load of objectives very, very close to my heart being met there. Not least because, as the father of a son who has autism, I see it firsthand how important employment means to young people and adults with any kind of a learning difficulty, and how much employment means to all of us in terms of our own self-esteem and, you know, what it means to us as people. So great work, and well done to you and your colleagues for keeping it going. Any questions? And just as before, if you would say just your name and your organisation, please, and speak as loudly as possible, although I shall repeat the questions just to make sure everybody. Apologies, you'll be sick of the sound of my voice, but I'm afraid you're going to have to put up with it for a wee bit longer.
No worries. Hi, my name is Anu Kasim. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
I'm from Aberdeen City Council, and I actually have 2 questions. But I think your last slide might have answered one of the questions. My first question was, have you had any projects that did not sell immediately? So when you went to the end of the cycle, did not maybe sell as soon as you thought it would? And if you have, what model have you used to kind of, for that particular property, have you considered rental models in this project? But I see that the women's project might be something to consider for something like that, so that's why I think it's answered that. And my second question was, for an organisation looking to start up this model, because there's something similar that we might be looking to explore in Aberdeen, what would be the key lessons learned from this kind of model for an organisation that's looking to replicate what's been achieved?
Cool. Okay, so I think 2 questions there from Anuka. Anu Kasim from Aberdeen City Council.
That's right.
And the first one was, what happens if it's difficult or proving difficult to sell a project? You interpret this as well, Catrin, if I'm getting it wrong. And does the women's construction model help out with that? And if not, what other approaches might you take to sell? And I think the second question was, if Aberdeen were looking to do something similar, what advice might you give?
Okay, cool. So the first, to answer your first question, we have struggled a little bit in the past to sell properties. We will eventually, but it's becoming actually more of a problem. I think people are struggling to purchase properties these days, and something obviously we're looking at is with the Women's Project, passing them on to another organisation. But something we are working towards as well is working with local housing associations. That is something we're trying to do to make sure that those properties are being used, because the last thing we want is to renovate a property and then it sit for a while not being used. The answer to your second question, what we've learned. I think, let me think. I feel like Tristan would have so many answers for you. We've learnt that it's really, as I mentioned in the thing, the well-being aspect of things is so important. We've learnt that people coming aren't always ready to move into employment, that kind of thing. We've also learnt to take our time. I think that's an important thing as well. We've spent 6 years on one project at a time, and we've only just started to get into the space where we'd be thinking about delivering 2 at a time. That means that it is quite a slow process, but what that does is it gives us time to work out the best way to do things, and it also gives our participants time. They get 4 to 5 months to work on these projects, and that's really vital as well, because it means that people can fully learn the skills that they're wanting to learn. Yeah, that's probably what I would say. Anyone else?
Lady right at the back there, I can hardly see you for that bright light, but I know you're there.
Caroline from Catrin Evans.
Hi.
So, with each home that you're buying empty, doing up and selling, hopefully, obviously, you'll be able to make a little bit of money, given that it'll sell for more than you bought it for. Hopefully, that's that's part of your business model. And I just wondered if that is going to help you use as an organisation, support your core costs going forward, and if it's just a slow approach, is that the plan?
Yeah, so...
Could you just repeat the...
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so that question was about... oh my God, just lost it in my head immediately. That question was about how we use the income from our properties, and whether the income is significant enough for us to use it as to cover our core costs going forward. The answer is it's not really enough to cover the project costs. What the cost of selling the project, what the income we gain is used for, is purchasing the next property, and also like the legal costs around that and that kind of thing kind of covers those costs and some of the costs of supplies and stuff like that. But for the actual sort of social aims of the project, it doesn't quite cover what we do there. So currently we are subsidised by grants from trusts and foundations, but as I mentioned, we're hoping that our core costs will be covered by our commercial income through CI construction really soon. So that's kind of the way we kind of bring everything together.
Thank you.
Anyways.
Does that answer your question from the back there? Great, thanks. While people are thinking, maybe I could ask Catrin a couple of questions, and Andy can let me know if there's anything coming in online as well. We heard the Cabinet Secretary, Catrin, this morning talking about Scottish Government obviously provides a lot of resources to our Empty Homes Partnership in Scotland. And with that money, if you like, comes a bit of responsibility to account for how we spend it.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in aspects of your organisation, Community Impact Initiative, in terms of your governance, and do you get, I mean, there's some decent sums of money going in from various bodies, it seems.
Yeah.
How does that work, and what are the outcomes of these kind of processes?
Yeah, so are we talking about kind of impact measurement?
Impact measurement, yeah, the kind of things that if someone, Scottish Government was Welsh Government in this case, or Big Lottery Fund, was giving money, no doubt they're saying, what bangs are we getting for our buck? Impact assessment is a better way of putting it.
Absolutely. So we measure our impact in a lot of different ways. Hard measurements include qualification achievement, how many people move into employment, but we also measure people's well-being, so how much their well-being has changed over the project. 91% of our participants find that their well-being is improved by the end of the project. We take all of this data. We also collect testimonials, so we look at qualitative data as well. Our projects only support 20 to 25 people per project, so qualitative data is so important to us because it shows the impact we've made on each individual person. So we use that data, we put it online for people to see. We also write impact reports, and we're also working towards creating annual impact reports, and that we're doing that in conjunction with Swansea University. So they have started to help us to sort of more deeply and widely really measure our impact, not just on the people who are at our projects, but also the local community at large as well. So that's kind of how we do it.
And about 50%, I think you said, managed to make it into further employment after their spell in the project, which is great.
55% move into employment and 73% achieve qualifications. So.
And do you manage at all to keep in touch with the people who might not, just to see how they're doing? Do they come into your well-being discussions and assessments?
That is a great question. So we've been trying recently to call people after 3 months and after 6 months, because what we're trying to do is make long-term changes to people's lives. Even if someone gets into employment after our projects, that doesn't necessarily mean that they will stay in employment. You know, the people who we're working with struggle with that kind of thing sometimes, and so we're trying to follow up with things, but obviously that takes quite a while to get going, so we haven't been able to collect a lot of data from those long-term follow-ups as of yet.
All right, any other questions from the floor? Got about 5 minutes or so if we need them. At the back again.
Yeah, it's me again.
Good. As many times as you like, you're very welcome. There's no limit in questions.
I think it's a really good project, and I do note that there'll be reasons behind that it's a one building at a time, or one home at a time project. And I just wondered if you thought it could be scaled up, and if it was to be, what would be needed?
Great. So that's a perfect example of a question that I might have to pass on to Tristan. It's definitely scalable, and obviously we're starting to see that come in with our second project on the go. I think managing our resources and making sure that we don't go too fast to take too much on too quickly is definitely one of them. But on a more technical sense, what we'd actually need, I don't know if I can fully answer that to the level that would be fair for you. So I could definitely pass that on to Tristan, and he'd be able to give you a more fleshed out answer to that.
But just in terms of your own knowledge and perception of the project, what would your hopes and aspirations be for the next couple of years, say? Well, I'm not going to say if money's no object, because it always is, but what are your big hopes for the next couple of years?
I'd really like to see us expand into different areas. So right now we're still very much, even though we're putting on new projects, more projects, we're still very much localised in the Welsh Valleys. But we're very aware that in places even not too far away, so for example in Bristol, we have consulted with different organisations there. We know that this project would be massively helpful. I'd also love to see this model being used in other places, like in Scotland. It'd be great to see this kind of thing followed. I was speaking to my dad, who lives up in the Outer Hebrides, and he kind of mentions it to people every so often, and every time he gets back, oh, we could really use that here, do you know what I mean? So it'd be great to see it sort of expand geographically, I suppose.
So go Dad.
Yeah.
More power to his elbow. Just, is there a network of organisations like this throughout the UK that you can benchmark with and share good practice and knowledge exchange and so forth?
There are a couple of organisations, but we all work slightly differently, and we don't really communicate that well. So I think it'd be really great to see that as well, and get in touch more with organisations who are trying to do the same thing, or even just working towards the same goals, because I think there's like so much we could share with each other.
Great.
Yeah. Oh.
Thank you very much to Catrin for a brilliant presentation, and what must be one of the most important areas for all of us is getting people into employment who might otherwise be difficult, have difficulties finding employment, and more power to your elbow. Thanks to Fiona from our sponsors, Brodie's, in introducing it, and for your continued support, Fiona from Brodie's, much appreciated.